basics.
On this episode of Fitness Junkeez, we first hear from AI Wellness Ambassador Dan Reynolds of Imagine Dragons, who happens to be my guest co-host's best friend.
My goal was to be healthy. So me and Brad started to go through a very specific regimen that all his studies and years of training had kind of prepped him for.
Later, Brad and I meet at the gym I train my clients at, Kilo Club in Sumerlin. So Brad's going to take us through his 3 favorite exercises. One for lower body.
Grabbing the horns, elbows in nice and tight, squatting down nice and low, coming right back up.
One for core.
So my checklist is the first thing I'm going to do is suck in my belly button and crunch my abs.
And one for upper body.
First part, shoulder blade back, then pull.
Enjoy the show. What's up, Fit Fam? This is Giovanni of Gio's Logic and your host of Fitness Junkeez. I hope this show meets you in good health and spirits, and if not, I hope it inspires you to do something about it. So today I want to talk about supplements and basically supplementing your whole lifestyle. So many people think it's a little cliche to talk about a holistic approach to health and wellness, but I believe that it's really important. And really all that holistic means is balancing all the aspects of your life to create a program that you can sustain. So that's why I'm really excited about my guest co-host, Brad Feinberg. How are you, Brad?
Good.
The reason I'm so excited about having Brad here is because we have similar philosophies and beliefs, and that's always really important. And our other guest, our fitness expert, is Brad's better half, Corey. Yep. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So the thing I want to talk about supplements and kind of what that word means is that when you supplement something, you are basically either completing it or enhancing it. So that's why it's really important to supplement your lifestyle. The other thing I want to talk about is how we supplement our fitness or any good fitness program with a lot of different aspects. And before we get into the details of that, I just want to talk a little bit about Brad. Brad's a personal trainer, an assistant fitness director at UFC Fit Las Vegas, Silverado. Yep. And Corey is a AI wellness athlete and many other things, but that's why you're here. Awesome. So before we get into the details of your philosophy and your fitness philosophy, I want to hear from one of your best friends, a client. And is he the co-founder of AI Wellness with you, or?
Yeah. He's, I guess you could say he's more of an ambassador.
Okay.
But he was definitely a huge aspect of creating it. You know, it was really started with him and I brainstorming and coming up with a better way to do things. But yes, he's more of an ambassador. More of like the face of it.
Awesome.
Better way to put it.
Right.
Yep.
So this person that we're talking about is Dan Reynolds. And let's see what Dan has to say about all this.
I spent the last decade of my life on the road, traveling all over the world. Lucky enough to be a musician and see different cultures and spend a lot of nights in either a tour bus or early years it was a motel or a friend's house. I really needed structure. I had a lot of people, whether it was a therapist or a doctor, telling me that physical, exertion and having that amount of discipline was really important for me, both for my health and for my mind. Tried a lot of different things, a lot of different diets, and didn't find something that worked for me. I happened to meet Brad Feinberg here in Las Vegas. He understood me. We sat down together, spent a lot of time going through what I needed, what I wanted. My approach was not to be a guy with tons of muscles and being able to lift crazy weights. My goal was to be healthy. So me and Brad started to go through a very specific regimen that all his studies and years of training had kind of prepped him for. I started to notice my body feeling a little bit better, more mobility, more structure, more discipline. But with it all came a lot of different things, whether it was supplements, vitamins, different movements. There were all these different steps that we were taking, and I was seeing them affect my life and give me more mobility. I was also getting stronger, feeling better on stage. The problem with that is that you have so many different pill bottles and you have so many different, supplement bottles. It got to a point where I couldn't keep it all. I couldn't, we were running out of stuff all the time. My backpack couldn't hold it. My suitcase couldn't hold it. So Brad came up to me at some point and said, hey, well, why don't we do something about this? And I have an idea, and why don't we create a product where people have kind of a one-stop shop for all of this? Really, the goal of AI is to make it so somebody else does not have to go through all of the effort that I went through, which is, all these different vitamins, all these different supplements, trying out all these different workout regimens and trying these different diets until I met Brad, and he was able to put it all in front of me. And that has been the last 3 years now that me and Brad have been working together.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
So why don't you reflect on
Sure.
what he just said? And
Yeah, it's this all kind of got started when we were on tour together. And, I really got to see firsthand how unhealthy the world is, because no matter where I go, I always have that perspective on, because I've been in this industry for how long, and you just naturally look, our job is to judge. So it's like, that's what we're doing 24/7. Right. But just seeing like how each culture is, can always improve. And, specifically working with him, like when I first started connecting with him, the whole aspect was, how can we manage what you're dealing with that much better? How can we have you be pain-free? How can we have you be healthy? Because unfortunately, as humans, well, for most of us, we want to get better, perform better, and do the fun and fancy things. But we can't do that as effectively if our foundation is off. So that's what it really started working with him, and realizing, supplementation plays a huge, huge role in this. And that's really where we came from, was to make his life better. It's funny because his goal when we first started working out was to dunk. And
no way.
I kid you not, was to dunk. And it was like, that's great and all, but we got to start from ground zero.
How tall is he?
He's about 6'3", 4'4".
Oh, okay.
He's actually a little bit taller than me, 6'4", 6'5".
Okay.
But yeah, he could not move. So
white men can't jump. Is that really? Okay.
Exactly. But we started from ground zero in this sense, and really just started working on his health, inflammation, and all of that, and going through tour that amplified because of all the stress, and that was the birth of AI.
Awesome. So, Corey, what did you get out of that piece that we just looked at?
I totally agree with Brad. I think the supplements are more of like the stabilization. Like, so many people want to go to like almost like maximal strength immediately, and we don't focus on like the first part of exercise. And I feel like this supplement is almost like the stabilization period where it is the most important.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Doing my research for this, I came across a statistic that was really mind-blowing, and I knew this, but it said that most of the pharmaceuticals are made from plants or plant compounds, and so it's like people think that pharmaceuticals are magic, and they also think that supplements are. I don't know.
That's a good point.
But it's most of them are based on the same thing.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that more a bit later. what I want to know is where did you start? What was your fitness journey?
It's a good question. It actually started when I was about 5 years old. I know I've shared this with you before. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I found out from a very early age what can happen and how it can impact you when you don't take care of yourself. So from a health standpoint, it was like age 5.
Wow.
Learning how to eat right. I still remember the times when I would look through the closet, like the pantry, and I was like, Mom, where's all the candy and chocolate? And she's like, you can't have that. In the most loving way possible.
Right.
Not just you can't have it, but it was like she had me understand why.
Right. I wish more parents would do that, even though their kids aren't diabetic, but explain to them why.
Absolutely. And so I was taught at an early age, like how to have a balanced diet and why it's important. Then fast forwarding, I got into a lot of sports, just like a lot of kids my age. And then I remember I was playing tennis. I played tennis for about 9-10 years and I loved it. And I remember going to the YMCA to start lifting weights to get better at tennis. And it just took off from there. And I pretty much lived at the gym for the rest of my middle school career, high school career, going into college. Like, I loved it. Loved how it made me feel, and I was going into high school, I was a bit on the chunkier side, just coming out of like baby fat and all that. I just, I'm a little bit heftier guy.
I'm with you.
Okay. And so obviously working out and taking care of yourself now, when I get to high school and college, I'm no longer that. And, I'm getting attention from people that they're like, what are you doing? So that fueled it even more.
Right.
And then I was like, you know what? I want to do this for a living because I knew I loved helping people, but I knew I loved exercise, staying healthy. And that's when I got my degree at Westchester University with exercise science, minor in nutrition, and it just took off from there. And, I feel like now I have done so much, anything and everything with the amount of different types of clients I've trained, the different styles of training I've not mastered, but just gotten to know. And every day, it's just more and more and more and more.
Well, I think you can say mastered, but mastered with a growth mindset.
Yes. That's a good way to put it.
And like I experienced with you at Kilo that I'm ready to learn. I want to learn, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I think the reason I call myself saying master is because her and I talk about this a lot because one of the reasons I do love her so much is because she always wants to get better. She always wants to grow. So when I think of a master, and I know this is not the case, but it's just in my head when I say master, it's like I already know it. And I always want to learn more.
Right.
So that's why I kind of pull myself, and I do know that I am a master in many aspects of this, but just for myself, it's like, if I get content,
right.
If I get complacent, then that's like, for me, that's like, no, can't do that.
Right. No. So Corey, what's your story?
She's an athlete.
Well, I've done sports my whole life. I did gymnastics for 11 years. I played softball for a while. I did volleyball, soccer, almost like every sport. But the sport I fell in love with was running, just because I guess fitness to me is more of like a mindset rather than like a physical thing. And so I started running in high school. I actually was playing softball, and the track coach came over because like I hit like a base hit, but I got to like second. And he was like, you need to not do this. You need to come run.
Oh, wow, because you were so fast.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I started that in high school. I ran the 800, and then I went to UNLV on a full ride for the 800. I ended up going to nationals, and I didn't get the time that I wanted to, and it was like this whole depression period I went through. But then that's also what made me like realize health is more of like a holistic approach. It's not just like what you can physically do. It's more so how you think about yourself. So after that, I started working at Lifetime. I worked down the strip for a while at the Wynn. doing beverage managing, which was crazy and not for me because I can't be in hotels like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I started at Lifetime, and being at Lifetime, just it's so cool to watch people like come in and they're so like overweight or obese, and then watch them get healthy. And just the way they speak and talk, you're just like, you're a totally different, happy person now. So I think that's what's making me fall even more in love with fitness. I'm now going back to school to become a registered dietitian, because I do feel like what we put into our bodies is also just so extremely important. So yeah, that's kind of my whole fitness journey.
And she leaves out that she almost became an Olympian.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
She strategically leaves that out.
Well, almost.
I didn't do well at the nationals part for NCAA. Not exactly like what I wanted to do. I'm also extremely like hard on myself when it comes to that, but that was my goal since like a child. I always wanted to go to the Olympics. I don't care what it was for. I just wanted to be like that level of an athlete.
Right.
But yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Of course.
So, Brad, you were born with an obstacle
Yes.
in your fitness journey. I could have been. I was a chubby kid, but I think it was what we were eating at the time, which was, a lot of processed foods, shake and bake, tons of vegetable oils and seed oils and all that stuff we are now figuring out that's not good for you. Did you have any bumps in the road other than not making the Olympics as far as your health and wellness? You said depression.
I was in college. I became anemic just because I didn't like to eat. And I wish I could go back down, like, to my old self and say, like, you need to actually eat more to perform better. But yes, I did become anemic. I did see a ton of girls around me have certain eating disorders that were hidden, but I also lived with 4 of them, so I knew what was going on.
Right.
So mine mainly was just being anemic.
Got it. So the thing, I took some notes watching Dan's little video there, and the things that stood out to me was, and you talked about it briefly, he mentioned like living the rock star lifestyle and traveling and going to gigs all over the world and the different levels of hotels. He mentioned his doctor's recommendations for health.
Yeah.
He mentioned one of my favorite words is discipline, which is a 4-letter word to a lot of people. I think discipline equals freedom. Not my quote, but Jocko quoted that. He also mentioned his goal of health was not wanting to be muscle bound, but I like to call that I want the Brad Pitt in Fight Club body, which actually you did create.
Yeah.
I would say more than I can say for most clients. It was pretty amazing, the transformation. He talked about all the different aspects. We talked about a holistic approach and balancing all that stuff, and then the supplements and the drinks, and it just got so overwhelming, and all he wanted was just to feel better.
That's it.
Which, other than the rock star part of it, is kind of what every American is trying to do: balance the home, the life, the stress. And I can relate, and what we talked about a little bit before is the supplements that I take and balancing like the 8 different bottles that I take, and maybe AI Wellness has a better solution. And I just wanted to give you some of the things I take on the daily basis.
Let's pick it apart.
Yeah, so I take ascorbyl palmate, which is a fat-soluble vitamin C. I take quercetin, and then a lysine, zinc, vitamin C, and B6 mix. That's to combat coronavirus and just boost my immune system. I take 500 IUs of vitamin D3 with K2, especially in the winter. I take a DHE with pregnenolone for cognitive health, and I take a multi-collagen tablet for my skin and my joints. And I think I look pretty good still for 57.
You would not be able to tell that.
Yeah,
I remember when
yeah.
I first met you, I was like, no.
No way.
No, not at all.
No
I
way.
love it.
You look great.
Thank you. Not fishing for compliments, but I love them.
But I'll take them.
And then I do a magnesium lotion before bed. And then I trust, and maybe you're probably going to combat this. I trust that I get the rest of my nutrition from my highly animal-based, and when I say animal-based, I mean grass-fed, grass-finished beef, only ocean-caught fish, and pasture-raised, not pasteurized, pasture-raised dairy.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I hopefully get all my nutrition, but I am getting a little overwhelmed with all the bottles and all that. Yep. So what can AI wellness do for me?
Well, first question I want to ask is, how many servings of fruits and veggies are you getting a day?
Not enough.
Okay. So with what you're taking now, it's all great. Like there's nothing on there that, is like, oh, this is bad, or you shouldn't take this. It's like, it's all great. But you're leaving out what I call the foundational supplements, or foundation of what we need to survive. So micronutrients, that's our vitamins and minerals. And they're like, I always tell people, they're like coaches in the body. You can have a great team, but if they have bad coaches, are they going to perform as well?
No.
Exactly. You could have a not so great team, but if you have a phenomenal coaching staff, do you think they're going to do better than what they could previously do?
The coaching is important.
Exactly. So that's what vitamins and minerals do. Like we could spend the next days talking about how crucial they are in your autoimmune system, just muscle performance, hydration, energy, you go on and on and on. And most people, unfortunately, don't realize how bad they feel until they stop feeling that bad. And that's where I hope AI can really come into play for a lot of people. And that's really starting with the foundational supplementation. And the first one is you could definitely, absolutely add a multivitamin. Now, and multivitamin mineral. And a lot of people, when I tell them this, I was like, well, I can get enough from my food. Do you know I believe it's over 90% of Americans are deficient in over 13 different vitamins and minerals?
90%. Wow.
I believe that's the statistic. I know it's at least 80 to 90%, but I believe it is over 90%.
Wow.
So what does that mean? Well, we're not going to live as long. We're not going to be able to play as long. Like what are some favorite things activity-wise you love doing?
Working out.
Exactly. That's an easy
I
one.
have to have it.
And if we're not getting the micronutrients that we need, you're not going to be able to work out as long. It's plain and simple. And that's where this comes into play. Even if someone is eating, like there's this chart that like breaks it up into like how many different vitamins and fruits and veggies and grains that you need to eat per day. No one is doing, a very small percent of the population is doing this. Like her and I are so into health and fitness and we're not even doing it.
Right.
So I can't expect people.
Me too. Right.
That's my point. So
Right.
That's why a multivitamin mineral is so crucial.
Okay.
That's number one. Another part of that is the vitamin D, which is you're taking. That's phenomenal. I love that. And then now another thing that I always tell people is calcium. But if you're having dairy every day, we don't need calcium. But most people are deficient. We need at least 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day. Why that's important? You ever heard of osteoporosis?
Yes, I have.
Okay, that kicks in later on in life. And the thing is that our bones, so when our muscles are moving, when we are active, we need calcium for many different things. If we don't get enough calcium, where's our body going to pull calcium from?
Our bones.
Exactly.
Got that
It's
one,
just
right?
the acidity in everything we drink too.
Yeah.
What like sodas, all the acidic drink, like the pH of our body. I mean, always at 7, but it's always like robbing from us.
Yeah.
So over a long period of time, people are starting to develop osteoporosis because they're just like, I don't know what's going on. Well, you got to stop drinking soda and start taking calcium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I in doing my research, I was came across exactly that. All the things that we eat and the things in our environment and our lifestyle that deplete us of those minerals that we're thinking we're getting from the food.
Absolutely.
So
And then another big one, and this is, again, obviously, really talking about AI is something for anti-inflammatory agent or inflammation. And why that's so crucial nowadays is, well, so when we look at what inflammation is, it's a response, a defense system that our body kicks in when there is, let's say, a foreign agent like bacteria, or with most people is a chronic buildup of some type of stress or an environment, toxins, whatever it is. Even exercise is a stress. When we work out a lot, our body has higher inflammatory molecules in our blood. So normally, the stress goes away and our levels come back down to normal. That's not most people these days with high stressful jobs. Like working with a number of CEOs, it's scary how they're still functioning.
right.
And perfect example with being with Dan on tour, like the amount of stress and seeing the long-term effects of that, it just destroy it. Like stress is probably one of the most catabolic things you can do for your body because it keeps your cortisol levels up high. But the problem is it keeps it up high for an extended period of time. It just doesn't come back down. So long story short, that's where our joint cap comes into play, and that assists your body with being more efficient in removing these inflammatory molecules, particles in our blood, so it can just do a better job of what it's already doing, because a lot of times now we just need the help. And that's what I tell people, like, that's your foundation. So if you need calcium because you're not taking enough dairy, it sounds like you are, phenomenal. Vitamin D, I think everyone should be taking a vitamin D. And for individuals to say, oh, toxicity, there are studies out there that have people do 250,000 IUs a day.
Right.
And they are totally fine.
Right.
And I don't know if we're allowed to say COVID on here, but there's a positive correlation with individuals that do not recover from that disease because they're deficient in vitamin D.
100%.
And then the other piece is the multivitamin, because it just fills in the cracks. It fills in the cement of what's missing. And no one, like very small percentage, is eating enough to actually fill in those cracks from whole foods.
Right.
So that's really the reason for AI, 100%.
So my problem is that I go through phases with supplementation. I need to supplement my nutrition with supplements. And then I get to the point where I'm at now, and we got all these bottles, and I go, is this stuff working, or do I just have expensive pee?
I love it.
Answer me.
I mean, I do believe it's super important just because your body doesn't make it, like Brad was saying. With a lot of people are focusing on just your macromolecules, like your carbs and fats and proteins. They don't focus on the micronutrients, which our body doesn't produce. It's just as important. It's essential. I think with our multivitamin, something that I do like about it, which you were missing, was kind of calcium. It does have B2 in it, which actually will help with like your teeth and skin and even your eyesight. So that's one of my favorite parts about the multivitamin. But I think when you go through phases, it's like you kind of want to try something new, and your body's like, maybe I'm adapting to it. But with these AI supplements, it has all of those essential amino acids that you need that your body doesn't create by itself. So that's why, I mean, you can go through phases of it, but AI, I don't think would be a phase. It's more of like a life thing.
Right. I tend to always teach my clients, especially the younger they are, is that you don't see the detrimental effect of not getting your supplementations tomorrow, the next week, the next year. Yep. It could be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years of being deficient over all those years, and you create a chronic illness.
Absolutely.
So I also kind of think about it, and maybe you can steer me the right way, but it's not, I also teach people to not think that if some is good, more is better. But quality and taking a little bit more of a shotgun approach opposed to a laser approach. Does that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Because it's just like anything. If you take too much, you're going to have toxicity in it. So absolutely. And it's funny, I see a lot of companies either underdosing or overdosing on certain things. Like, for instance, some people are afraid to put calcium in products, hence why they have their own calcium whatever.
Right.
Or afraid to put vitamin D in a product. Now, they do that, one, to prevent toxicity, but looking at other, micronutrients, they just clearly don't have enough in there. Or you get something like caffeine's great. I've seen a lot of these pre-workouts where they have like 300, 400, 500 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm like, are you serious?
Stop my heart.
Exactly. So I see both ends of the spectrum where they 100% put this laser focus on like one or two micronutrients, and then they underformulate everything else because they're afraid. And I understand that fear, but if you want to change someone's life, you gotta do your research. You really got to come in and, like, I like how you say it, like more of a shotgun spread, making sure we're getting all the essential things that we need rather than 1 million IUs of something or micrograms of something. Yeah.
Right. So with my predicament, with all these different bottles, what solution do you have for someone like me from AI?
Yeah, so one, we would definitely add the multivitamin. Now, like for instance, with that vitamin C, with our multivitamin, you could take that vitamin C out.
Which vitamin C?
The one you're taking, the fat soluble one.
Okay.
You could definitely take that out. Now, here's the thing too. It's hard to be toxic with vitamin C, but it's possible.
Right.
So that's if you're looking to consolidate. Our multivitamin has plenty of vitamin C to get the job done, so I would take yours out of there. And then the one you're using for the joint, or I know you were talking about.
Right.
That's where the joint cap would come in, which in my opinion, obviously I'm being biased towards this, but there's no other product. There's no other anti-inflammatory product on the market like this one because of all the 4 ingredients in there.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, it's
out of your products.
Like, it's quote unquote more powerful than Tylenol, but I can't legally say that.
Right.
But I just did.
Right.
So
now, did you bring some of this stuff, and how do you take it? Is it water based or?
We'll start with it's a shirt. Couple shirts. So this is the multivitamin. Boom. And then this is the joint cap. So the multivitamin is, again, if you would look at that, you're like, wait, that's not in a bottle of pills.
Right.
The reason why. So we just didn't throw a great number of micronutrients together. When you look at a lot of pill forms, what happens, you get an influx of micronutrients. So if you look on like a graph or scale, that it goes way up the y-axis with the amount you're getting in the system. And then shortly after, you're going to have, if anything goes up, what goes up must come down. So our body does not have the ability to absorb all of that at once. Now, some other companies do a slow release, which is great. Actually, with I do know there's another company, can't think of off the top of my head, but they do a slow release multivitamin. It's phenomenal. But here's what I was thinking. I was like, people don't drink enough
water.
Yeah. Yes, water, not alcohol. We don't drink enough water. We are so dehydrated as a nation.
Right.
So I was like, let's combine the two. So with this, they come in 2 servings. The way I recommend it is you do a half a gallon in the morning, or half a gallon in the first half of the day, half a gallon in the second half of the day, 1 scoop in each. Or just consolidate it, do 1 gallon, 2 scoops. Drink it throughout the day. So you get a steady stream of elevated micronutrients. and you're drinking a gallon of water each day, which is a safe amount that everyone can shoot for. Yeah, females I get are okay with like 2 liters, but 3 liters a gallon, you'll be fine.
Right.
You'll need it. So we're hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. And that's because I looked at the 2 biggest issues is we don't get enough micronutrients and we don't get enough water. Let's combine the 2. And it tastes amazing. If you don't like the taste of water, this solves your problems.
And this has vitamin D.
Has a little bit, yep.
Okay.
Because again, like I was saying, on some of the micronutrients, just not going too high.
Right.
So we do, we obviously have to follow like the RDAs, things of that aspect. But there is vitamin D in there. There is calcium in there.
Magnesium?
Yep, there should be magnesium.
So I probably because I kind of cut back on my dairy.
Mm-hmm.
I do usually about 2 eggs a day. I do like the bulletproof coffee, where I put like probably 2 tablespoons of butter. Well, I do 2 coffees, so I do 1 tablespoon, 1 tablespoon, and some coconut oil. That's not a lot of calcium.
No.
So
Definitely
if
not.
that's what I need, I'm way off, really. So I'm in a deficient kind of space now. So that might be a good replacement. Now, I'm going to guess there's no L-lysine in here?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so I guess, and everyone's looking for a one-trick pony or
that does not exist.
Yeah. So I can take away some of the supplements that I'm taking, and then how much does this? This is a 30-day
month supply.
Okay,
month supply.
I like that.
Yeah.
And you guarantee I'll feel better? No, just kidding.
What I will guarantee is that you'll.
What
I will guarantee is you'll get what you need.
Gotcha.
And if you get what you need, you'll feel better.
Gotcha. And how did it change your athletic performance? Because you're always striving to be better, and faster, stronger.
I want to go fast.
I mean, mine is more so like what he was talking about with my cortisol levels. They're so high from all the stress that I do have at work right now and then trying to go to school. I am so tired all the time. So when I started taking this supplement, it actually helped with my sustained energy throughout the day, because it would be like around 2 o'clock, I would just like sit at my desk like I need to go to sleep. And then because I've been taking this, I actually have my sustained energy throughout the day.
And is that the B vitamins in here that
Yeah, it's a vitamin complex.
Okay.
It has B2, B12. Which other ones are in there?
B6 or B9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at this, what strictly B vitamins do is they support with, our energy systems, along with many other things, but that is what they're popular for and known for. So yeah, but then even vitamin C is going to help with that. Like, there's so many things that we forget that assist with energy transport. And, something as simple as like when people are like, oh, it's that 2 o'clock crash. It's like, no, you're probably not eating right.
Right.
Like, so we blame a lot of things, or we're not blaming a lot of things on our diet, on our nutrition. And the other thing too is what I always tell people is like supplements don't fix things.
Right.
Like, you can't just take this and expect to feel better if you're not eating right. So
it enhances
exactly
your program.
Exactly.
Right.
I get a lot of messages like, is this going to fix this? No, like I can't replace a doctor. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I know how to change your body, but I don't know how to cure your body. So there's a huge difference in that.
Right. And one of the other things I picked up from Dan's video was that, he was saying he didn't want to be bulky, and how you came together. And I think that's one of the characteristics of a great trainer. They meet their client where their client is and kind of directs them to the results they desire. Tell me a little bit about that with Dan and how you...
Yeah, so like I said, when we first connected, it was kind of, it was hard for him to squat. And and he was really, you know, focusing on the performance side of things. Luckily, you know, I mean, Dan, he was like the perfect client in the sense of like, I told him to jump, he would say how high.
Right.
So he did everything that I told him to do. Well, because he knew he wasn't the expert. Like, I love when people are like, I want to do this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, then do this and this and this. And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, then please leave. It's like,
right.
Don't waste my time.
Right.
But, you know, kind of really coming to him and be like, okay, this is where you want to get. This is what we need to do. And that's why this is what, I mean, I love science. Like, science is a passion of mine. But, you know, it's also an art. Like, this industry, and it's being able to balance both worlds is not easy at times because, you know, with him, there were some days that were really not exciting, like focusing on mobility, focusing on, you know, balance and this and that. And then, you know, it's like, why do we need to do this? Like, well, because of blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. It's like, there's a reason for that. And then, yeah, other days were exciting, like, especially when we started progressing and, you know, when he's starting to like do Olympic lifts and when we're starting to do, you know, all these other things. It's like, it's great. But I feel many of us don't realize that, you know, we tend to forget about the basics.
Right. 100%.
I mean, it's like the reason, okay, yes, Michael Jordan, he's a phenom. But one of the reasons he was so amazing is because, you know, how many foul shots did he practice? How many, like, it's basics, basics, basics. And we forget about that in exercise and health and wellness. And that's when I look at like AI, like this is a basic, you know, learning how to move properly, being a master of movement. That's a basic, you know, eating your fruits and veggies, you know where I'm going. But that's really where I came to him and be like, this is what we need to do. It's like, if you trust me, I'll get you where you want to be, but we got to do it my way.
Right.
So
now, does he train you or do you train him, almost Olympian?
He definitely has taught me a lot. I mean, in college, I went through like obviously weightlifting programs, but he's taught me like Olympic weightlifting as far as like snatches and squats and everything. I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
As far as food goes, we're like, I don't know, but
I know this
with
guy
movement
is a donut freak, and but yeah, that's great. That's great. So I ask all my guest co-hosts for their favorite exercise if they can only choose one for upper body, one for abs or core, and one for lower body. So me and Brad met up at Kilo Club in Sumerlin, and we went through a bunch of different exercises. And Kilo in Sumerlin is the only place you can get Geo's Logic one-on-one training, just by the way. So let's see what Brad picked for, I think we started with legs. So Brad, this is the Kilo Club in Sumerlin.
it's impressive.
So Brad's going to take us through his 3 favorite exercises, one for lower body, one for core, and one for upper body. You ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So it looks like we're going to start with the leg exercise.
Yes. We're going to be doing a kettlebell goblet squat. And this is a great exercise, not just for beginners, but also intermediate to advanced lifters as well. Because the basics and basis of this can be applied to your more advanced squats, front squat, back squat, overhead squat. So with any type of squat, you're going to want your feet hip width apart, toes pointing forward. Nowadays, I see a lot of people doing this, and we don't want to do that because it actually undertrains the glutes. So keeping the toes pointed forward stretches out the glutes, so you're actually activating them more, and you're not going to develop tight ankles, tight calves. So toes pointed forward, spine nice and straight through the entire range of motion, not arching, not rounding. Knees are going to go over the toes. We're going to squat as low as we can, and we're going to come right back up. So I'm going to hike it up to chest level. I'm grabbing the horns, elbows in nice and tight, squatting down nice and low, coming right back up. Nice controlled manner, about 3 to 4 seconds down, holding at the bottom, coming right back up.
Now you go below 90 degrees here.
Correct.
If you can.
If you can. If you can't, just get as low as you can. If this is your range of motion, that's fine. And then what you do is you work on your mobility and strength to get lower and lower and lower.
But I see the motion, your hips seem like they're going back.
Yep, so essentially, imagine essentially like sitting down. So hips are gonna drive back as you sit down, getting as low as you can. Knees are allowed to come forward though, because a lot of people I see as well trying to keep those knees back. Knees can go over the toes. As long as they're tracking over the big toe and middle toe, you're fine.
So why did you pick this exercise?
So squat, in my opinion, is one of our primal movements. And we squat so much in everyday life. So just learning how to move better, mastering on how to move, everybody needs to know how to squat, whether you're 5 years old or 90 years old. When we look at developing strength, a squat uses so many muscles. One of the best ways to develop strength, besides pushing the weight, is how many muscles are you using at once? This one uses plenty of that. Building muscle, again, more motor recruitment, the legs, core, glutes, even in this case, upper body,
right.
Stabilizing with the chest, arms, and shoulders.
Right, so if you have to pick one exercise, this is going to be it.
Yep. And even compared to other exercises, there's a lot of great ones out there, but this, in my opinion, hits almost all the points when we look at how we need to train, no matter what our goals are.
Awesome, awesome. Leg day.
Yes.
I have become a really big leg day advocate because I've heard about, when you're on my fitness journey, my focus changed a lot from looks or vanity. Mm-hmm. As you get older, it turns to health. Yeah. And I've researched and studied about how loss of leg muscle in particular is a factor or a marker to all kinds of stuff that's not good. Absolutely. So I have my clients at least do 2 leg days a week.
Good.
I have some of my clients that do full body workouts every day. There's a lot of different stuff, but talk a little bit more about functional movements and functional training.
Yeah. When we look at the definition of because a lot of people say functional, it's like, what does that actually mean? It means something that is applicable to everyday life. That's how I define it. And I believe, I forget how NASM actually defines it, but it's very something along those lines, like something that we're using to help us with other things.
Right.
For instance, like a lying hamstring curl, what does it really help you with in everyday life?
Right.
So that's really the definition of functional. So when we're, again, like you said, I've had a lot of older clientele where we are working on a goblet squat, front squat, back, because we have to.
Right.
If we want to exceed in life or make life easier, we have to. And I love always kind of referring back to babies, because babies show you how we should move.
Yes.
Babies have the best squats on the planet.
I love that theory.
And then what happens? We sit all the time. We stop training our bodies. We build up inflammation, and our range of motion, our strength just goes out the window. So training, quote unquote, functionally enhances that, so it can just have us be more efficient moving through life. That's my
that squat could be nicknamed the baby squat, because that's how a baby would do it.
Absolutely.
All the way down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. So our next area was our core workout, and let's see what Brad got cooking for us on the core. So we're in the functional area at Kilo Club, and Brad, what are we going to do here?
A good old plank.
Okay.
Yep. So plank is phenomenal for any fitness level, but I love the plank because it really focuses on stabilizing, which we have to do in every aspect of our day. And not just that, but practicing a plank properly benefits other movements. Because when we think about stabilizing in the plank, nice tight core like we're about to get hit in the stomach, But not only that, it's used to develop stabilizing the core, the spine, and actually the entire body, which can translate over to other exercises like the squat, the deadlift, even strict press, even a bench press. So best way to do it. And again, this is where I see a lot of people mess up. There's like a checklist I like to go over. So I see a lot of people do this with the plank, which we know we don't want to do because it's arching that low back. I see a lot of this. What I don't see is people actually using their abdominals and core. So I'm on the forearms and they're going to be parallel with each other up on the toes. So my checklist is the first thing I'm going to do is suck in my belly button and crunch my abs. So you even see my body round a bit. We want that in this position. So sucking in the belly button, crunching the abs. I'm going to squeeze my butt, lock my legs out, and I'm going to pull my elbows towards my toes and toes towards the elbows. Now my entire body is engaged. I'm rigid. You can even see me shaking. That's how you do a plank. You can hold it for whatever time necessary.
Wow, I've never seen a plank done so perfectly. That like brought in new things about the plank that I want to start using on my clients. That was amazing, and myself. I guess that's why you chose this exercise opposed to sit-ups?
So when I think of the core, the number one job of the core is to stabilize. It also flexes and rotates, which that's where sit-ups and crunches can be done, because even in this, I'm doing a crunch.
Yeah.
So it's not like sit-ups are bad. It's just most people do sit-ups incorrectly, and this is where you want to start.
So I have all my clients doing them now that way. By the way, thank you.
Awesome.
And I started doing them that way, and it was brutal.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
It's a different experience. And I couldn't hold it as long as a normal just hang-on plank. Do you do those?
I do them. Yeah. Thanks to Brad. And I do a lot of planks and yoga, too.
Ah, yes. But they don't tell you to do that.
They don't do that.
Yeah, it's different. I love that. So let's go on to the third exercise, and that's the upper body exercise we chose. You're really blowing my mind here, Brad. This is all you need for your rows.
That's it.
Okay.
That's all you need.
Tell us what we want to hear.
So one arm dumbbell row. This is always where I start with a new client, and this is, in my opinion, a must-have for the upper body. We have pushing and pulling for the upper body, a horizontal pull. We can do that in so many different aspects. Again, in life, extremely functional. So the rules that apply to this row can literally apply to any pulling movement. Where I see a lot of people maybe not get the most effectiveness out of a row is they're pulling a lot with the elbow and bicep. Great way to get big arms, but maybe not so much of a back. So the way we're going to do this is a nice wide stance. You don't have to get too technical with where your toes are pointing. So we're going to be putting most of our weight on this front leg, on the quad, just resting that forearm right on it. Next thing we're going to do, dumbbell is on the ground. I'm going to pick the dumbbell up just so it's hanging, and my shoulder is all the way forward. What I see a lot of people do is just start pulling right away. And if you notice, I get very little back involved. So the first thing we're going to do, shoulder blade comes back, then elbow. Come all the way down. Shoulder blade comes back, then elbow. That elbow, if you want, depending on what you want to hit, can come out a little bit wider, can come in a little bit closer. For most people, I say just let it naturally come back. But again, first part, shoulder blade back, then pull. And I'm squeezing those shoulder blades nice and tight when I pull back.
So why not use a bench?
You can.
Okay.
But I always start with this because I always translate it over what's going to get me the most bang for my buck in a movement. This, I'm using my body, I'm stabilizing more. You can absolutely use a bench. And in all honesty, you could probably use more weight with a bench.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. But to start, I always look at it, what's going to have me burn the most calories? What's going to have me be the most functional? What's going to get me the most, most amount of strength, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I would imagine in that position, you're engaging your core, your whole body to keep that balance.
And in life, if we need to pick something up with one hand, it's not going to be like, hey, let me go grab a bench and put it down. It's going to be, let me get down here and then pull it up.
Exactly.
So that's why.
Love it. Love it. Awesome, man. Like, you've taught me some great things that I'm going to use on myself and with my clients. Man, that was great.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, that's what, if we have trainers watching, really, I really recommend, like, don't be a hater on someone else's techniques and things that they teach, because you can learn so much. And I did.
Good.
So what other things, we were talking a little bit before, in the holistic approach to fitness, what other things are you kind of excited about? I think you were talking about some sort of tone thing or energy thing before.
With the frequencies?
Yeah.
I am excited about that.
Yeah.
And if I may pause, when I first met him, those are the exercises he made me do. He's like,
Nice.
this is your program.
And you're like,
Okay. But yeah, from the frequency standpoint, I do believe that the whole world runs at a certain frequency. It is an energy vibration. I'm extremely into yoga, pranayama, like breath techniques. And our cells are at a certain frequency. And there's a place that has opened, and they target certain cells that may be either like diabetic neuropathy or like cancer or osteoporosis, any of those certain cells that are in the body, and it's supposed to help match that frequency and help vibrate the cell so that it does become more of like obviously a holistic healthy cell.
interesting.
Yeah.
We'll have to do more on that later.
Absolutely.
And are you as excited, or is there something else that you're focusing on right now?
Well, right now, I mean, definitely when she told me about that, I was like, because I'm diabetic. So, and my mom, she's actually going. She's has had rheumatoid arthritis for as long as I could remember. So I am actually very excited to try that. But yeah, for me, I'm gearing up to open this facility, UFC Fit, down in Silverado, and Centennial opens up actually this weekend. So the past couple months, I feel like it's just been UFC all in my mind, just pushing so much for that, which is so exciting. It's really cool to get in on the ground floor with it.
I think they're gonna have a mind body class over there too.
Yeah,
that's supposed to help like with the holistic approach as far as
Right.
yoga. I don't know which type of yoga it's gonna be though.
It's really kind of up to the instructor at the time. So there could be a good mix of different styles. Kind of really got to see, because we don't have the biggest class schedule right now because we're just opening. But as as the months go by and people are requesting more things, and so we can see what class times are going to be really good, and we'll
Right.
start adding more and more.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm really into the HRV and recovery.
Yes.
And then doing the appropriate workout
Yes.
for how I slept
it.
and how I recovered. And I think it's a really good, as Whoop says, it's a really good feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this trend of work out hard, poor recovery.
Yeah.
And so instead of what kind of the inclination is to go hard again to get more fit, but that's reaching.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you should modify your workout to your recovery.
Absolutely.
Are you starting to do that with your clients?
I've done that with them for quite. I did that with Dan a lot. It was funny. I've actually a quick story.
Okay.
So when I was first getting into like looking at our heart rate and HRV levels, when we were on tour, I stuck a heart rate monitor on him while he was performing.
Wow.
And I was like, in my mind, I was like, this dude's heart rate is probably going to be off the charts. He's standing in front of thousands
Right.
of people. A little over 100 beats per minute. I thought it was broken. I was like, no, and I'm like, literally, I'm in the crowd, like with my phone trying to
Right.
get a better signal.
Right.
And it's just like, and then he started like jumping around and go up to like 110. So I was like, it's working. But then I'm realizing like, this is what he's a master of.
Right.
So like, it was just really, really cool to see someone of elite status
Right.
and like how their body adapts to that.
Right.
So, and really looking at heart rate training, I think it is so underutilized because you're right. We go in there and all we know is go, 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 go. And we do that in every part of our life. CEO does it with a business. A mother does that with, taking care of the kids. We all have our version of that. And we just apply that to exercise. Not everyone, but most of the times it's like, go harder, go harder, go harder. That's how you break.
Right.
And that's why I love HRV, because let's be real, do we all get 7 to 8, 9 hours of sleep a night? No. I get 4.
And is it good sleep?
No, it's like I'll wake up in the morning like, well, it's 3 a.m. I might as well honestly, I get up that early to play video games, but that's a side story. But it's 4 hours of sleep, and it's like you try to push it in the gym the hard next day because that's what we think is right. And it's just, no, it breaks us. So that's why I love the Whoop. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think everyone should be using heart rate monitoring, HRV, to adjust your training, so on and so forth.
Now, is that what Orange Theory does? Not to talk about our competition.
So Orange Theory does and I'm going to say this without down talking anyone. They track heart rate monitoring
during the class.
And that's it.
Got it.
So,
which is really not what we're talking about.
Correct. Sorry for any Orange Theory people out there.
Lifetime does that to you.
Yeah. And this is where I started at Lifetime, learning about this. And with UFC Fit, what we do now is, like, for instance, in a class, kickboxing and boxing class, super high intensity, right? We go into that knowing, okay, this is going to be a high intense class. Everyone has their own levels of high intensity. That's why we need a heart rate monitor. So as a coach, we see your heart rate on a screen like this, nice, if not bigger, on the board. And it says like Gio's heart rate, Corey's heart rate, my heart rate, everybody's heart rate. And it does it by color. So according to the color determines the percent intensity of what we need to be, of where we should be.
Got it.
So if we're doing 1 minute rounds with a minute to rest in between, those are going to be high intense rounds.
Right.
On one hand, if your heart rate's still low, you're not getting the benefit out of that.
Right.
Our body only adapts to the stress that's put upon it. And if we're trying to push our anaerobic threshold, push our VO2 max, we need to push. But this is where people make mistakes. They don't recover. And so we see on there, we don't let you perform again until your heart rate comes back down to a normal level for a little bit.
Got it.
Because that's how we recover. That's how our energy comes back in. That's how we get ATP back. That's how creatine phosphate comes in, and glycogen, glucose, all that. So we manage that. And then at the other end, if we're doing like 3-minute rounds, 4-minute rounds, you can't go as hard as you would during a 1-minute round. So if we see your heart rate's too high, we're gonna be like, hey, Gio, just calm it down. Love the energy, but just calm it down a bit. Like, just bring it down and cruise at that so you can perform better for the rest of the 40-minute class.
Sorry, CrossFit.
But that's my point.
Right.
I don't like talking trash, but I see this as you're right. We always think we need to go, 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 go. And that is appropriate maybe 5% of the time. Right. Yes, every once in a while you want to make yourself puke, go for it, have fun. But that is like one day out of like your 12, 14 training sessions over the next 2 weeks or something.
Right, like right now what I'm doing when I have a really great recovery and really get like a good 7+ hours of sleep, my HRV is really high. It's like, okay, hardcore workout. I turn it up and I feel really good doing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. That works.
I just wish, we are starting to realize how important recovery is. We are 100%, but just, it's, to move a mountain, it takes one person, it takes a little bit at a time. So it's like, we're starting to really be conscious about, hey, it's not go, go, go all the time. Exercise is a stress. It's just another stress.
Right.
And when our hormones get all mixed up because we don't know how to pump the brakes, that's when problems kick in.
Wow. I learned so much today. This has been a great episode. Where can people find you at UFC Fit Silverado?
Yep, definitely at UFC Fit Silverado. She's over at Lifetime. She takes care of all the members over there.
And how can people get AI wellness products?
So you go to aiwellness.com, but we're on Amazon now. So
Nice.
yes, and you can get it in 2 days with Prime. And we have a bunch of different. We only went over these today, but we got a pre-workout. We have a BCA product. We have creatine. We have glutamine. So we have a bunch of different things that you can get to just make you perform better in life. And check us out on Amazon.
Wow. Great stuff. Thank you both for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening or watching. And the one thing I'll have to say is this was great. And believe the sooner you get hooked on this content, the sooner you'll get to the body you desire and the health you deserve. All right, Fit Fam, I'm out. Thanks, guys.